So would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and what the sunroom is?
Yes, absolutely. So the sunroom it's an energetic space with a few different offerings. It provides people with a platform that allows spirituality to become easy and accessible in like the whole new age spirituality sort of realm. And so the different offerings that the sunroom has is our full moon circles. So we hold those every month on the full moon, also known as goddess gatherings as well. And we also have our gorgeous retreats that we hold as well, which is really, really special and kind of gives women a few days to really immerse themselves through that inward journey. Whereas the full moon circles are just one evening. And then also have one-on-one spiritual mentorship as well, which works through sort of meeting an individual where they are at in their own personal journey and providing them with guidance and sort of, gentle guidance to that inner part of themselves to sort of awaken the soul. So that is it, I suppose, in essence, a little snapshot of what the sunroom does.
Yeah,
and
a little overview.
yeah.
Awesome. What then made you want to start the sunroom and like have that platform or that space for people to go to?
Yeah. I think for me, it's really just been about bringing more love and light into the world. I think I've gone through such a profound spiritual journey myself in the last 5 years and have learnt so much about myself and my soul and the way that the world works, and have felt a really strong pull in about maybe the last year or so to start sharing that insight and wisdom with other people. And so, yeah, that's sort of how it came about. And the best way I kind of describe it is like, if you like close your eyes, like imagine this. There's like a world and there's all these houses, and some of the houses have their lights turned on and then the others sit in darkness. And I think I have had this like passion and this like fire inside me has always wanted to just like go into the people's houses who sit in the darkness and turn their light on, if that makes sense. It's almost like they're sitting in a couch trying to read this book and they have like the lampshade behind them, and like that light just isn't on. And I kind of want to be that person that goes and turns the light switch on so that they can start reading and start seeing the beautiful colors of the world and stuff. Yeah. It's been a really, really beautiful journey, like the last 6 months, and it's all come together so quickly and crazily, but yeah, it's been really good.
Is it something like you foresaw or like that you journaled about, and like in what detail as well?
Yeah, I think from a young age, I always like knew that I'd end up doing some sort of energy work. I always knew that my soul had a much greater purpose than like just, I don't know, just working or just studying or doing any of that. And so I knew that I'd always sort of end up. And so I guess in a way I kind of did foresee it. Maybe I didn't expect it to happen at such a young age. I kind of thought like, oh, maybe that's something I'll do like when I'm like much older with like a family and, you know, I'm not flying at that time and like I need to just like kind of just stay at home and I can start doing that sort of work. But yeah, no, it just literally, it was kind of like the universe was like, nope, you're ready now. You know enough, you can start sharing it with the world. And so, yeah, but no, definitely something I've journaled a lot about. Yeah, definitely. And just manifested, I suppose, this whole process of helping heal other people. Yeah, definitely a manifestation process. And yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I guess then, like, would you say the sunroom is like part of your life mission, or do you have a life mission, and how do you think you will go about achieving that? Or
100%. I definitely believe that my soul in itself is fulfilling its life mission, and the sunroom is sort of a manifestation, or like one manifestation of that purpose. And yeah, absolutely. I believe every single 8 billionth soul that comes into the world has a mission to fulfill, I suppose. And that purpose and that mission looks different for every single person and every single soul. And some souls go an entire lifetime without even recognizing that they have a purpose or a mission. And or realize it at a very late stage in life. And yeah, so I think for me, that mission has really been about bringing more love and light into the world through my own inward journey and my own discoveries.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, being able to channel that like as a human being myself, like in my daily life, and then take that to an entirely new level through the sunroom and kind of doing it on a much greater scale and continue to do so on a much greater scale as well. Like be able to touch as many people's souls as I can and turn that light switch on for as many people as I can in the world. So, yeah.
So also when you said about like it's one aspect or one part of your mission, the sunroom, are there other aspects of that as well that you're going through?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had this crazy like dream of mine since I was 12 or 13 years old to become a pilot.
Yeah.
And it's just something I don't know. It was something where I literally was like to mum, I think I must have been like 13. And I was like, I'm going to become a pilot so that I can travel the world for the rest of my life and get paid.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, for the last 10 years, it's just grown into this incredible passion and really big part of my being. And I think that mission and that purpose also sort of has manifested itself through my flying journey. I think by inspiring other people to, you know, get into flying, and especially inspiring other women to get into flying as well, is really a big part of my soul mission too. And just being able to just do something different, I think is like the biggest part, is knowing from a young age that that sole purpose was like, I just knew that I had a greater purpose than, like I said, like coming and just working and not being happy in this life. Like I knew that I had to do something that I would be so happy with doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so I think flying is sort of, yeah, like a manifestation of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think, you're talking about all of these different things like the sunroom and flying, do you think your journey and the things that you kind of stumble upon in life, do you think you're finding your true purpose? Like, do you think the sunroom and being a pilot was your destiny? Or do you think that just by nature of who you are, you'll just kind of make whatever you find? Like, make the best out of the situation, I guess. Like, which one do you think it is?
Yeah, such a good question. I absolutely believe that that was my destiny. Yeah. And it's sort of something I reflect on a lot when I meet people and hear about what they do and stuff. I'm like, okay, so that's what your soul came here to do. Like, if that makes sense. I think we all have sort of like this predetermined path, I suppose, that's sort of laid out in front of us that we can't see as a physical human being, but our soul knows on a much greater level. And absolutely, you know, your life experiences certainly shape, guide, and reveal more parts of that journey as you start to walk down that path. And I suppose that path becomes clearer and clearer the more you walk down it. But yeah, sometimes I think like the way that I get so excited about planes and flying is like the same way I get so passionate and excited about like all spirituality. I'm like, how does that, they're so like completely different, but like how does that coexist? Like to me, I'm like, I just put it up to destiny. I'm like, this is just what, you know, my soul's come here to do, and I'm just so incredibly passionate about it, and I don't know why, but both of those feelings, like I can't put into words, and I'm like, so I put it down to just being like, no, that's just what my soul is sort of destined to do.
It'd be very interesting to see how the universe like links them together in the years coming.
What's interesting as well, like with flight, when you said that, it kind of feels like another dimension of like, because we're always on the land. And when you talk about flight and being in the air, it's like something so like incomprehensible or something so different. Like it's a complete other mode of being, even just like up there. And then also the connection you would have to this world and like your perspective of like looking down and even just like being in the air, like floating. Like, yeah, I feel like that has spiritual and like a connotation or connection to that as well.
Yeah.
In that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything you just said is so spot on. And like, I feel that on such a deep level, everything you've said. Yeah, when you're up there, like you look outside and everything feels so minute, yet so infinite and expansive at the same time, because you're just looking like up at the sky and it's just blue and it just keeps on going and keeps on going. And then you look down at the land and it's brown, or there's dirt, or there's a city, and it just keeps on going. And it's like, yeah. I just don't even think you can put into words, but you said it really well.
There's like this phenomenon of like that in this book I've been reading, Phosphorescence by Julia Baird. And she talks about like the experience astronauts go through, and I can't remember the word for it, but there's like this particular like phenomenon that they experience like when you get out of the Earth's atmosphere and you start looking down, there's like this perspective change and this shift and this like awe that comes about that like they can't describe to people, but they just feel like more love and compassion, and that like Earth is more sacred than it ever has felt before.
Yeah.
Which sounds like similar to your experience.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Like, it makes everything just feel so simple. And I feel like that is just so interconnected to spirituality, is the fact that everything is so simple. And it's about coming back to that knowing and that remembering that it can be so simple. Yeah, because when you really do, you look back down and you just go, everything is just happening. And, cars are driving past, or river streams are just flowing, or I don't know, the wind's just blowing, and it's just all happening. Like, it's all just happening, and we're just witnessing it, and, we can't stop it, and we just surrender to that process. And I think that is really the essence of life, is like surrendering to these processes that have always been there and will continue to just be there.
So like going back to destiny in a way, do you think like it's predetermined then before birth by either something or someone else, or do you think you create that yourself in a sense?
I think that's something I've definitely reflected on heaps, and like asked very similar questions like growing up and stuff. And I think, I'd be able to confidently say that I believe that it is predetermined before you come into the world. Almost like your soul has like a choice to come here and fulfill the mission of, creating a better world. And however that happens, whether it's through flying or the sunroom, like however you choose to do that in the physical reality is up to you. But as long as you fulfill it at that deeper level, if that sort of...
So do you believe in the universe or a higher group of consciousness, or what people would call a god? Do you think they set the destiny for you?
Yeah, I think, I do, yes, absolutely believe in the universe, and, connect very deeply to that essence. And I mean, that's something I haven't specifically reflected on before, but when I think about it, it would make sense that the universe has guided and led certain individuals and souls down a certain path, because that essence or that energy knew that person would be able to fulfill it. I think, it's a common saying, the universe wouldn't put you through something you couldn't handle.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like goes back to this notion of the universe being all-knowing. And the universe probably sitting there being like, okay, yep, you can do this, and you can become that person, and you can do this. But I think it's more of this like infinite all-knowing that everyone will end up taking a part of this journey and will fulfill their role to creating a more peaceful and loving world in these different ways, and leaving the rest up to the human to take up that challenge or not, I guess. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So then, like, how does a person know? Like, you would come across a lot of these people in the sunroom, I would assume, that perhaps feel like they're not on the path to their destiny. And for people listening who feel something is a little bit off, like, how do you know that you might not be going in the right direction? And then how do you change that? And maybe they've never even felt that feeling of knowing that they're meant to be, like, who they are and where they're going.
Yeah. It's all about awakening the soul to me and that process. And that process is really about coming back to intuition, first of all. And that's why the sunroom exists, is to be able to facilitate that support for people who go, I just feel like there's something bigger out there. I just feel like there's something that I know in the back of my mind and deep in my heart, but I just don't know what it is. And I feel so drawn to this sort of realm. And so that's what the sunroom is really about, taking those people and going, okay, well, let's strip back all those layers. Let's pull back all the stuff, all of the physical
Reality.
Yeah, all of that humanness stuff. And it's so important, we are these like dualistic humans where we are human and soul, and it's very important to honor both of those parts of ourselves. But I think in what you're saying is like, how does someone sort of discover that more soul essence within? And that definitely comes down to peeling back the physical layers, pulling back the ego, which is, the name, the identity, the gender, the ethnicity, where you live, who you know, pulling all of that stuff back and realizing that there's still something that remains. And it's that realization that you go, oh, okay, now I know what that is. And
Who you really are.
yeah. Yeah.
So for someone who's probably, let's just say, stumbled across this podcast and has never heard of spirituality or finding out this true self or stripping these, like, they don't know what it means, what would be like the first thing you would point towards to sort of explore and go towards?
100%. Yeah. Meditation would be the first thing that comes to mind for me. Doing guided meditation is probably the best way. Having someone, you can do it on YouTube, or you can get apps, like there's incredible apps like Insight that does really good stuff too, or a meditation coach. And I believe the process of meditation allows you to become nothing so that you realize you're everything. And it's a slow process, it's a slow journey. And, the first few times you'll meditate, if you haven't before, you'll sit there for 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes, and then you'll go, okay, my attention's gone somewhere else and I can't sit here for any longer. Like, I need to get up, I need to do something. And it's about training the mind to become comfortable in stillness. And then the longer you do that, you start to surrender and you become the observer of your mind and all the thoughts in your mind, and realize that you are that higher consciousness. But that's a process that takes time. Some people sit down for the first time and meditate and they get that discovery straight away. But I'd say, like, if you are sort of listening to this and not knowing where to start, I would definitely recommend just starting to become comfortable in the silence and the stillness. The silence and the stillness is really where the magic is, and it definitely takes time to become comfortable in that and discover that, but persevere through it. And yeah, that's where you find the good stuff. Yeah.
You can't really know who you are if you don't sit with yourself.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so much distraction from that just in everyday life, like as you said, like just by distracting your mind with constant things to do or constant steps or like expectations can really put on extra layers. In meditation, like, is one tool to feel that and start to see it. And I think also having that just blank space of awareness in your mind's eye, or when you're looking out into your eyelids of like blankness, it's a good thing to like focus on.
Yeah. When I first got started, like I didn't know what meditation was or like the process or like what it was trying to achieve or anything like that. But I've come to like realize that it's like a conversation with yourself. We're talking to each other. I'm getting to know you more. You're getting to know me more. Like it's a back and forth. And we know that very well. And we do that a lot with other people, but we don't necessarily do it with ourselves. And when you start asking the same questions you would ask someone else, and when you sit there for 5 minutes and you don't know the answer, it's like eye-opening to realize like perhaps the ego, like your ego has fooled you, and there's a veil between yourself and your self.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. And I mean, I suppose you can even like liken that to like the ego and the consciousness, you know, and the ego is the brain and it's the mind and it's the part of you that wants to keep you safe and comfortable. And, you know, then you do have your consciousness, which, you know, if we use similar words, it's your highest self, your divine essence, your truth, your all-knowingness. And the more that you, and it's really not about, you know, killing down the ego. I've definitely learned that. It's about more so becoming acquainted with it, knowing how it works, and then knowing that your consciousness is the part of you that, like I said, is always there. It's still there, and it's the way that you connect to everything around you and how you can connect to people on such a different level beyond the surface of like the ego of that identity. Yeah.
It's just like fundamentally understanding it. When you talk about the higher consciousness, the universe, how would you describe that? How do you see that in your mind's eye? How do you visualize it? What does it feel like? And what is it, do you think?
That higher consciousness is your most truest, most authentic, and most connected self. It is you. It is you before you came into the world. It is you who you will be once you leave the earth physical plane. It is the part of you, like I just mentioned, that is connected to absolutely everything. And it is source energy in itself. And now I know that that is all quite vague for someone who's probably not very familiar or is just starting to learn about spirituality, but you know that will resonate with people who do understand that. And well, not, and that's the thing, I think you can't decipher consciousness using your physical mind. It's a feeling, it's an energy state, and it's a knowing that resonates on a soul level, where there are no words that us as humans could, I don't even know, like, it's such a big thing that words just cannot encapsulate it.
Is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is just something that to be sensed not through language, but through feeling and like absorption of energy, I guess. Yeah.
It's absolutely, it's a transfer of energy. And because we are energetic beings, we're able to be receptive to that consciousness state, right? And because everything is energy, everything is consciousness, like plants and the earth and the water and everything. And that's how we can connect on that vibrational level. So it's less of like a physical knowing, like, you know, this is consciousness and my mind is, you know, picking that up and making it consciousness in my mind. It's like, no, I am consciousness. I am that energy. And because I am that, I can see that in you. And that is,
Yeah, and I think you can only truly understand that, like as you said, if you've experienced it and like doing meditation or journaling and like discovering the source or the root of your soul, then you can start to understand like the language that we use to describe it. When you can't necessarily feel it like over audio as well. Like you can sense some energy, but yeah, that feeling as well is like you need some sort of language around it.
Yeah.
And that's what we've started to do to express it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So as well with your like spiritual connection, how did that kind of come to be? Like, did you have a family that kind of guided you through that, or friends, or?
Yeah. I've always been a very, very deep feeling and intuitive human and soul from a very young age. I think there's just been so many life experiences. Like I can think back from the time I was like 3 years old, and stories that my family have told me about me when I was that young, and things that like sort of happened, and everyone sort of looked back and was like, how did that child know that?
Yeah.
Like, what is that child thinking? And yeah, from a really young age, I think I've always asked the bigger questions, like 11 years old, 12 years old, going to my mum, like, okay, so like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
Like, where did we come from? And what are we doing here? And then where do we go when we die? Like, I know there's a really morbid questions to be thinking and considering when you're like 11 years old.
Yeah.
But I think maybe it comes down to me being like an only child. I think I had a lot of time by myself to sort of reflect on a lot. Maybe sometimes a bit too much, asking too many questions. And yeah, just really contemplated the whole concept of God from a really young age too. I went to like a religious school, and I just questioned in classes so much. I would ask all the questions like, okay, if you're saying this, how does this make sense? And just asking those questions. But yeah, family definitely had a big thing to do with it culturally, because being from an Indian background, the notion of spirituality is very deeply ingrained in our culture. Religion was never imposed on me as a child or anything like that. My family are from Punjab in India, which is the state which practices Sikhism, which is it's a minority in India. It's a very small religion, but it really parallels, I think, spirituality. And I you know, there's so many connections that I've been able to draw between the two. And one thing that sort of clicked for me at a young age was when I heard Ekumkar, which in translation means God is one. And like I always knew that. And then the more I went through my spiritual journey, coming to know that, you know, like, yes, consciousness is everything, source is everything. And, you know, you can look at a leaf and see God. You can look at yourself and see God, like that whole thing. And yeah, so I think growing up, just being around that sort of energy was really helpful. And I think having parents that, you know, weren't religious but were just more spiritual beings really sort of guided and nurtured that process of my soul exploration. Like there was a lot of support.
Also being able to like ask those big questions as well and not getting turned down would have been a huge thing too, because I know like even not with spirituality but just questions in general, like lots of parents can get pretty fed up when it's like the 20th time of a kid saying why, you know, like so to really like respect you as an individual and see like this was something so important to you, and to give you like truthful answers and respectful, and really try and help guide you and not influence or impose, but just to guide you too is like a very special thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, my mum's been a big part of that for sure. Like I remember, again, I think it was sort of like 12 years old, and I was just going through a phase where I kept being like, what is real? Like, are we real? How do I know you're real?
Yeah.
And I remember my mum being like a massive safety net for that phase of my life when I was younger, because it got really overwhelming at one stage where I just was really like, wasn't able to, I don't know, I was like, but how do I know you're real? You know what I mean? Like, what is this? And what's this physical body? What's this physical realm? And, you know, I feel like there's something more out there, Mum. And then, she just really nurtured that process. And there were so many times where we'd sit down and she would explain things that she's gone through in her own sort of spiritual journey that, you know, she's like, look, I've gone through something similar when I was your age as well, so it's normal and stuff. So I always felt very validated, which was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, that helps you express as well. Like So did you have any like opposing parts of that through like schooling or your friends? Like did you have any like pushback with expressing how you felt like that?
Yeah, definitely. Even till date, you know, there's this the stereotype of it being like a woo woo girl, and like, you know,
Yeah.
oh, the girl who just like cleanses her crystals and stuff. But I think, yeah, I've just you just learn to just like understand that people will meet you as far as they've met themselves, and
Yeah.
love and compassion always, that some people just don't resonate with the same things you do, and that's absolutely okay because that makes the world go round, and provides contrast in the world, which is really important, I believe, as well. But yeah, definitely going to like a really religious school definitely challenged those beliefs internally. Yeah, but I think it also provided me a space to ask the bigger questions because I was being faced with a lot of content and information about something that I was not sure of.
Yeah.
And I think you can either become susceptible to that and just believe what you're being told, or you can question it. And I think a big thing that my parents have taught me to is question everything in a respectful way, obviously,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
but internally, don't believe everything you're told. Yeah.
You mentioned before you come from a place when you're born and then you go to that place again when you die. Do you think there is a loop, and is that reincarnation, or like what do you believe in that sense?
I think this is something I've always like sort of, I guess because we just don't know and our human mind just cannot comprehend this process. The way I don't know, kind of see it is like there are multiple and infinite realities, and they all exist simultaneously in this present moment. And this is just the reality that we are experiencing right now. And yeah, it's definitely hard to wrap the physical mind around this sort of idea. And again, it does come down to that sort of like that soul knowing. So I'm not too sure if I believe in such as the cyclical way of being, of going and coming back on this physical earth. Maybe it's a matter of the soul going through this journey beyond the physical realm, and this earth is just one of those stepping stones that the soul has to come to experience, learn, evolve, and then it will continue to take shape and form in many other realities, if that makes sense.
So like this is just the human experience that your soul is journeying
Could
through.
be, yeah. Yeah. That's something I sort of resonate with at the moment. And I know that could change, and I know it probably will change through time as I learn more and discover more. But at this point, I feel like that's something that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really important as well, just to be open with things like this, because we don't know everything, and we can be quite limiting if we are just looking for things to confirm one answer or one way. So yeah, I think that's a really important point that you raised as well. It's just like being open and knowing that your beliefs evolve as well over time as you learn more and experience more.
Definitely. And always think outside the box. Think outside the box. I remember saying that all the time to my friends in high school. Like they'd ask questions. I'm like, have you thought about thinking outside of the box?
Yeah.
Like, and it comes back to the idea of being open-minded. Yeah. And allowing all possibilities to exist, because that is already the case. It's just whether or not you're accepting that.
Yeah, whether your perception allows you to perceive that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your like, if you have one, daily routine, I would say, with spirituality? Like a lot of people have a health routine, like they would get up, they eat certain foods, they sleep at a certain time, they work out at a certain time. Like what's your daily routine in a sense of staying even on the path and in touch with knowing where you're going?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called sadhana, which is like a Sanskrit translation of like your daily spiritual practice. And it's ever evolving and ever changing depending on what season of my life I'm in. And the thing that remains quite consistent and I suppose relevant throughout every season is, yes, definitely meditation and journaling. Journaling is a practice that I've used since I was 14, 15. It provides like self-reflection, introspection, and it's a brain dump. It's so good. It just takes everything out of the mind, puts it onto paper, and then you can just see it from a third perspective. I found that when I meditate consistently, when I journal consistently, and my daily routine is made up of those processes in the morning or in the evening, that I function as a much better human being, and I feel so much happier, so much happier and more connected to my truth and my purpose. A bunch of other things. I think in lockdown, that practice grew very, very extensive. Like my morning routine was like 3 hours of like my spiritual routine. Like I would wake up, first thing I would do is like, so it's so like stereotypical, but it is for a reason, because you feel so good when you do it. I'd go downstairs, I'd make my hot lemon water, then I'd do a 40-minute fasted walk, come back, have a hot shower, sit down, then I would do my meditation, I would journal and write, then I'd do a yoga flow, then I'd do a card pull, then I would journal some more. Like it was all of it. But now when I've got like 30, 40 minutes to get ready for work, I'm like, what can I do that makes my soul still feel good, but also fits in my routine? And I think now, even if I don't have time, say in the morning at home, then I'll put like a guided meditation on the train, and I'll do that. And I find that really grounding, especially after work too, is like having that guided meditation after being around a lot of other energy, just coming back home to myself and my energy through, connection to breath, and stuff like that. And the journaling process as well. Yeah, would be the two biggest things that make up my daily routines that connect me to my soul. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's kind of like, and in the beginning of my journey, I guess, coming from a really closed mind, believing what you're told kind of way of existing, one of the main, I guess you would say, pushbacks or like criticisms of spirituality would be like, how do you, I guess the actual question is like, how do you balance having structure with the woo-woo or the floatiness that is like whatever it is out of this dimension? Yeah,
Like how do you almost balance being like a soul and a human, I guess, that kind of thing?
yeah really.
The body, it kind of craves that structure and that routine, but the soul like goes through so many seasons and has different needs at different times.
Well, like the eternalness, if that's even a word, of your soul, and like the here and now of your body, and like the survival needs and instincts, and like the push and pull from both sides. How do you know when it's time to listen to one or the other?
Yeah, I love that. And it's something I'm learnt to balance more in, say, like the last 2 years since my flying course started. And I sort of see it as like, I have this like 1 liter jug of, say, water, and then I've got my mind, my body, and my soul, and they're the 3 cups. And at different times, and I think it comes down to self-awareness. That's the biggest key, is being able to be self-aware of this process and knowing that, yes, you are an energetic being that has unlimited capacity, but you are inside and contained in a physical body which does have limited capacity.
So good.
And so with that jug, you have that 1 liter and that 1 liter only. And at different times and exactly in different seasons of your life, you'll be pouring that water into the different cups, and they're going to be at different levels. At some stages, it might be all the same, but having the self-awareness that every single part of your being, whether it is your mind, your body, or your soul, needs something from you at any given stage, and being able to tend to that it's an art.
Yeah,
it's a journey. But having the awareness that it does each one will require something of you is the first and the most important part of that. And just going, okay, look, I've had a massive day at work. My brain's sizzled, my body's really sore, and my soul feels sort of drained. all three of my cups need topping up right now. And so you might put equal parts in. Or like say after a really long run, you feel super energetic, your mind feels clear and your soul feels so good, but you've sprained your ankle or something like that. Everything else is looking fine, but you need to now rest your physical body, tend more to that. But I think it really is about a yin and yang process. It's a balance, it's a dance between being human and being a soul, and acknowledging the power that both of them hold as two separate entities, but also together. Because I think for a very long time I sort of, like got very absorbed in like the physical, and then went on to the other pole, which was like being very like, esoteric and living up in this like other dimension that wasn't even physical, and that didn't feel really good either. And so then coming back down and learning that I had to go through those two processes to then realize like, no, it is a balance, but that balance isn't 50-50. It'll change and ebb and flow. Yeah.
I think that's like the biggest misunderstood word almost in today's like world, is the word balance. Like I feel like so many people see it as this fixed thing, and what is for me should be for you. And you summed it up really well. It's like it changes from day to day, and self-awareness is the way that you can understand what cups you need to fill up more than others. And understanding that because what you're going through today is different to what they're going through, what you need is different to what they need. And that can help you in a lot in relationships. Like a lot of people try to help people the way they want to be helped, when that's not necessarily what they need.
Yeah. And I think even in that sense, like coming into like I say a relationship is like when you both acknowledge that you are two spiritual beings, I find that allows that relationship to grow on such a deeper level, because you then come to those understandings of like, oh, hold on a minute, I was meeting your physical, needs on this level, what I thought you needed, but like, no, your soul needs something more, because our souls are very two different entities and walking different paths. And then, you do come to realize like, oh, just because like that works for my soul and my physical demands doesn't mean that other person has that same experience. And I think if you just can bring it back to love as this one connecting thing that can take many different shapes and forms, I feel like you're winning then. As long as it's like rooted in love, but then allowing it to mold to facilitate the needs of like your partner or your friend or your family member, then you can't go wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Love is the answer to all.
Yeah. It's right here for a reason.
It's like, and you sort of alluded to it before, like the ego can get in the way of that. Like what I want, they should do this for me. But really like when you want connection and a healthy relationship with someone, with anyone really, it's like when you tap into true love, like it is limitless, and you can pour from yourself into them how they want it, and they will pour into you. That's what connection is. Like, you know what they want intuitively, or what they're asking for, and you want to give it to them. And I think like we have the ability to do that with anyone. But sometimes fear of judgment or betrayal or anything between people can like obstruct that. And that's kind of how all these bigger problems manifest. But love is really like true love of the other person's soul, and understanding who they are and giving what they need to them. I mean, they don't really ever need it if they love themselves, but you know what I mean? Like, that is, it's the answer to everything.
Or even just going back to like that we are one, that they are part of you, and just seeing yourself in them, or just trying to put yourself, it's kind of just like putting yourself in their shoes, or just understanding that they're a part of you, like helps kind of disrupt all those assumptions and those fears that kind of like tower in front of this person before you do something or you want something, like not speaking your truth because of fear or because of perception, rather than just speaking out of love and love for you and them as well. Then you can't go wrong with that.
And I so loved what you said, like love is the the answer to everything, and it is the one binding energy. It is literally like on a vibrational scale, it is the highest vibration that you can experience. And it's so true. I know what you mean though, in terms of like, we can connect to every single human being on the vibration of love. And
It doesn't even have to be physically present either, which is a crazy thing as well.
Yeah. But it's like, it can almost be like, hey, I'm an individual who loves myself and loves all beings. There's another individual who loves themselves and loves all beings. Let's conjoin and like create like love in any sort of way. And I think it is so true. It is the ego that comes up and goes, okay, what if that person doesn't accept me? What if that person judges me? Or what if that person doesn't understand me? And I think, again, it comes back to the truth that every human will meet you as far as they've met themselves. But also at the same time, knowing that every single human being is made up of the same love that you are, and knowing that they just haven't discovered it yet. But with time, they will come to know that truth.
Yeah.
It allows you to connect so much deeper to everyone and anyone. And that's been such a profound part of like my journey, I think, is like the power of love.
Yeah.
I see it like a maze. Like, you have a maze of your experiences, your wins and losses, your like good times and like your trauma. And some people's mazes are easier to navigate because you've gone through the same things, and so you can connect with those people easier. And sometimes when you meet someone who's gone through things perhaps you haven't experienced, it can be harder to connect with them. And I feel like some people can, and I have in the past, you're like, oh, well, I just can't connect with them, but you're just lost in their maze. Like, it's hard for you to relate to what they've gone through. But if you're patient enough to learn and to listen and to pay attention to them, you can find your way through their maze and you can connect with anyone. It's just first understanding that the soul is there buried underneath it, and like knowing and just being patient and like loving for them to guide you through the maze and to show you who they are.
100. Yeah, that's so true. It is. It's a soul knowing. It's literally just going like, I see myself in that person, and that's where compassion comes in, and being a compassionate person and knowing that you can absolutely find your way through someone's maze when you yourself open your heart and your mind to that process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just knowing that like they're just going through something at a different stage to you that you've once been through as well. Because everybody has their own path and their own process of getting to answers at different times or experiences. So yeah, being respectful of that as well, and not like assuming that they have to come to this conclusion at your timing, but yeah, acknowledging that it happens at their timing and just being respectful of that and a guiding hand or light as well through that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Damn, that's banging.
Yeah.
Do you want to do those questions?
The three.
Yeah. So we've got like these icebreaker questions, but we're kind of doing them at the end now. There's these three questions that we ask everyone. Who comes on the potty?
On the potty? Yeah. This is such a contrast. This is
But it's
so
fun.
funny.
It's fun. It's fun.
This is funny. Okay. If you were two animals, what would you be?
The
and
combination of two animals, yeah.
why?
Oh, wait. It could be like a
Yeah.
combination.
Yeah, like a
Okay.
head of something and the bottom of something. Or
Oh.
mix or whatever.
It definitely has to have wings. So it would be, part butterfly. And then I think that the other part would be like the body of an elephant. Yeah.
Can you imagine it?
But that's the thing, right? Like it's like it's the unimaginable, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Like I love that. Like I'm like, everything you can imagine is real.
Yeah.
Could you imagine how big those wings would be?
I'm just
Like, how
imagining tiny
detailed they
ones
would
and they're
be.
like so fast. Like
Like a bee.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
There's so
literally.
much like symbolism behind butterflies and elephants as well, but like
Yeah.
the butterfly effect, and like its evolution through life from
Yeah.
a caterpillar to a butterfly. And
Yep.
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And why the elephant?
I've just always had a really deep connection with them. Like when I've gone back home to India, like every time I see elephants there, I just feel very, very emotional. I don't know why. Like I just like look in the eyes. I'm like, wow. Like it's something like I look at them, they're looking right back. And
Yeah.
I don't know. They are so gentle. They are so big physically, but it's almost like their soul is so light, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, they just have this calming essence about them. It's very nurturing. I love it.
Even the way that they step like is very like calming and like emphasized, and they're like big ears, their big trunk, like everything is like slow motion
Yeah.
in like that gentleness as well.
Yeah, I feel like they're just humble. I love
Yeah,
it. I'm like,
yeah.
you know, you're big and you're cool, but you're just humble about it. Like I like that. I like that. I like it. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Also, like a lot of us at times can be quite self-critical and sometimes forget about like the things we've done or how far we've come. So, what is something you've done or something you've learned about yourself in the past 3 years that you're proud of?
Ooh. Yeah, so much. I feel like if you met me 3 years ago, you'd be like, this is not the same person as it is with so many people. But I think maybe on like a physical level, I think getting through my flying course, yeah, really, that's been really, really challenging mentally and emotionally and physically. It's a very demanding course and a very demanding career, but it's something that I'm so passionate about and so determined and driven to do for the rest of my life that like it just everything comes together with it. But it has been a really big journey, and yeah, I think I have come so far in the last 2-ish years with it, and I'm like now sitting at the brink of becoming a commercial pilot, like literally at this point in time, like so close. It's like right there. I can almost reach it. So I think that on a physical level has been something I'm really proud of doing. And I think maybe on like a spiritual level, becoming like who I am in my heart, it's been a really big journey. Like my
And it's not over.
Yeah, it's a lifelong journey, right? And I'm at the mere beginning of it at like 21 years old. Like I'm a baby, and I know that, and I accept that. But I think I'm really proud of like everything I've learned and the way that I integrate it in my life and help other people with. And I think the biggest thing too with that, it has really allowed me to like anchor my self-worth, and that's something I'm really proud of, is that I stand by my truth when I used to not stand by my truth. And now I feel like, yeah, it's almost like unwavering. It's unshakable. Like I know who I am. I know that I am love, and that's what I deserve in my life. And I'm really proud to say that I've gotten to a place where I can stand here with my heart and say like I'm self-secure and I am whole as my own through that journey. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I think maybe if you come on again, I want to talk more about is your journey with becoming a pilot, like ambition and some of the struggles you went through in the physical sense, because we talked a lot about spirituality today, but there's definitely another side of the coin. And
Yeah.
So the last question.
So how would you like to be remembered?
Yeah. I'd love to be remembered as someone who inspired everyone that I met. I think that's really cool, even if it's just like in the smallest thing of, oh, I didn't even think about turning the tap that way and now that works, or something like something random like that. Like, but like, yeah, if whether it's to do with flying or on a deeper level, in terms of like soul connection, but just someone who made people realize how incredible they are. Just someone who made people realize how loved they are and what they're here to do, and someone who brought more love and light into the world, and just made everyone feel really in love with themselves and learn to love other people more as well. Yeah. Lots of different things, but overall, just someone who just did definitely make an impact and change some people's lives. Yeah.
Man,
Awesome.
great job, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you
It
so
was
much for having me.
So good.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm like smiling ear to ear.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. Yeah.
Me too. It was really
Yeah.
good.
No, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks everyone for listening. If you if you enjoyed the episode, make sure to rate it 5 stars. If it's not 5 stars, then really, did you even listen to the episode? I would recommend you go back and listen from the beginning, and then you'll understand that this definitely deserves 5 stars. But thank you again for coming on. Hopefully, maybe in the future we'll have you again. And thank you for listening. Have a great, wonderful day, afternoon, night, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.